Greetings everyone, I'm Kevin and it's time to play Yahtzee for September. So as always, before I start playing the game, let's go through the books that I was supposed to read for August and see if I have to take punishment prompts or something. The first prompt that I got was yellow and I got 1996, which is the year I was born, but because I didn't have a book published or set that year, I skipped and I got a new prompt card and I got fave, and I chose to reread Scorpio Hates Virgo, and so I read it. Then I got a title card, which was number 10, and for that I read The Infinite Noise by Lauren Shippen, and I did read it. The next prompt I got was fake dating, and I chose to read She Drives Me Crazy, which I read. Then we got another title card, and it's number 26, and for that I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I read it and I finished it. It was beautiful. And the next card I got was blue, which is a punishment card, and on the punishment prompt was YA romance, which a lot of confusion. It's one of my favorite genres, so like why was it a punishment card? So that was like a big mix up. I don't know how that happened, but I'm not complaining because I got to pick a YA romance and I chose to read The Gravity of Us, and I did read it and I did finish it. Then I got the prompt to roll a dice to choose the first letter of the book, the title, and the letter that I got was S, and I chose Stand Up Yumi-chan because it starts with the letter S. I did finish it. The last prompt that I got was to read a Swedish romance, and I had chosen En kväll i juni. The thing is, I put myself on like the quote immediately at the library, but there was a lot of delays with the physical copies that they had, so it wasn't like possible. It wasn't possible to read it. And so because of that, I decided to switch En kväll i juni for SMS från Soppero, which is a YA romance. It's a Swedish YA romance. And because it is a Swedish romance, I count it because it's not that I didn't try to read En kväll i juni, it's just that it was physically impossible to get my hands on a copy of that book. And so I don't want to take a punishment prompt when I really tried to read it, but I couldn't. I much rather just switch it out. This is the first time I switch a book for a prompt, but like I read this, it is a Swedish romance, so I'm gonna count it as Swedish romance for YaTBRzy. So I finished all of the YaTBRzy chosen books, but as you know, YaTBRzy isn't only counting the books that I read for YaTBRzy, it's also counting the books that I read for my reading challenge. And for August, I got the reading challenge 48 hours. So I read 5 books in 48 hours. And the books that I was supposed to read for that 48-hour span were SMS från Soppero, Stand Up Yumi-chan, The Gravity of Us, She Drives Me Crazy. So all of those I finished for YaTBRzy and also for during the 48-hour reading challenge. And then I also picked Cosmo Nights, which I also finished. So I finished all the books I set out to read for YaTBRzy, for my TBR game, and for my reading challenge. So all of that is done, finished, finito, so I don't have to pull out a single punishment card for an unfinished book. And then the question is, if I completely mess up, I might have to take a punishment card anyways, but I don't have to start off this video with punishment prompts, meaning that I have to add books and choose books for prompts I don't want, like read a book over 1,000 pages. I don't want to do that to myself. So then before we play the game, let's spin the challenge wheel. So here it is, and just let's... What did we end up with? In a cafe. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. So that means that I will have to do a reading vlog inside a cafe, and I have to finish these books in the cafe. Like, if I read these books outside of the cafe, it doesn't count. Like, I have to only read these books in a cafe is the challenge. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a challenge. I felt that after doing my most recent reading vlog, that was for the 48-hour thing, I thought that the worst thing that could happen was getting 24 hours. But in a cafe, making a reading vlog inside a cafe, only reading these books in the cafe with people. Like, I have social anxiety. I am kind of like an introvert, so this is gonna be a challenge. But anyways, let's do the first roll for YaTBRzy and hope for the best. First roll for September. And as you see, I need everything. So let's start with the absolute most difficult one, straight. And 5, and then 1 or 6. A 3. Okay, that may not have been the smartest thing I've ever done, but let's put that on 2, because I can get more 3s than 6, and these are higher. And 17 here, I'm gonna go for 17 in chance. So, okay, and that is, the first card for September is yellow, and we get indigenous. So as you saw, I made a mistake doing what like, why did I go in with so much confidence for the first roll? I mean, like, yes, the row was blank, but like, still. But for the prompt indigenous, I'm gonna read Yatzy by Darcy Little Badger. I had planned to read this for the Tropical Readathon, but I haven't managed to get to it, unfortunately, which I am not very surprised about, because August was my first month of full-time work. Like, I went back to full-time work on the 2nd of August. So for the entire month of August, I've been working full-time. So I've been working like 9-hour days. So I haven't had as much time to read as I'm used to. I still managed to read a lot, mainly because of like my reading challenge, reading 5 books in 2 days. But I haven't been able to get to this. It's the 29th today. I don't feel like I am going to be able to get to it, unfortunately. So it's perfect because I'm really excited to read this. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. This is kind of like an alternate America. I don't know if it's North America, all of it, or the US or Canada specifically. All I know is that it's an alternate America, and it's inspired by Native American, especially Leap-and-Apache. It's especially inspired by Leap-and-Apache mythology and things relating to that, as Darcy Little Badger is Leap-and-Apache. And so I'm really excited to read it, as I'm not American or anything close to American. I have no idea about like Native American things more than what I have read about and watched stories about, I guess. So it's gonna be really interesting to read their story, or like a world inspired by Leap-and-Apache mythology and culture in like an alternate America. I think that's, and by a Leap-and-Apache Native American, which I think is going to be very interesting. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. Second roll for September. I'm gonna go for the 4s, of course. And last roll. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so I'm gonna take this for 4s, of course, and that is 16. So that's amazing. And that is a yellow card because it's not the highest possible. And we have aliens. Aliens, one of my favorite things in science fiction. But can we talk for like a second? I did not expect this turn to go so well. Like, after the first one, maybe the universe is kind of feeling sorry for me, I don't know. But we got the prompt aliens, which we love. And I have a few options, of course, because I love science fiction. Science fiction, as I have mentioned, I don't know how many times by now, is one of my absolute favorite genres of all time. So love that for me. I actually thought at first that I could take something out of my shelf, but then I had the most brilliant idea, because after finishing the first book in the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, which is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, I decided I'm gonna buy all the books. So I have ordered all the books, and so I will have the second book coming sometime next week or the week after that, but sometime in September. So I'm gonna read A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, the second book in the Wayfarer series. I'm really excited. Like, I really loved the first book. It was so good. I loved like the cultures and all of the different alien species, all the like different alien people. I don't want to say alien, but like the other extraterrestrial galactic people. It sounds like, it doesn't matter how I change it, it sounds weird. But I am really excited about this. I love the first book, excited to find out what the second book has in store. Third roll, I'm gonna take the 5s. I feel like now the game is starting to like me. Technically that's a 5, but I'm gonna roll again, of course. And we end up with 3 5s. I'm gonna take that for 3 of a kind. So we have 15 for 3 of a kind. And that's another yellow card. And this time we have black cover. So this is extremely self-explanatory. I have to read a book with a mostly black cover. So the books that I found on my bookshelf, this one that is TBR, like to be read, my unread bookshelf, is this. It's only 2 shelves now, which is very strange. But I usually say that first, like, I had a book buying ban over the summer because I don't make a lot of money during the summer. And so if I would just buy a lot of books during the summer, I don't have enough for food and rent. But now that I'm back to full-time work, I have enough money to take care of everything and then some. And so I usually say that when I'm not having a book buying ban, as soon as the bottom shelf is emptied, I can buy books. But if there are still books in this bottom shelf, I'm not allowed to buy books. And as you see, I don't have, like, these 3 are also lying down. So all of this is actually empty. And so the bottom shelf is completely emptied out. And so I was allowed to buy myself books, which I love for me. It's a form of self-care. It's sad that a lot of forms of self-care drains the wallet. That's sad. But then again, there's nature, which I love too. But anyways, the books that I found on my shelf that are mostly black. We have first Den vidunderliga kärlekens historia by Carl Johan Wallgren. I would consider this mostly black. It's beautiful, but it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. We follow a guy called Hercule, and he is the son of a whore. And he, as a young boy, he falls in love with a girl who was born almost the same time as him, who was the daughter of a whore. And so they were kind of like brought up in this brothel, and Hercule is like head over heels in love with this woman. So this is kind of like Beauty and the Beast meets The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And if that sounds interesting, then this has like tiny print. Like, it looks like it's not that long, but it's like 400 pages with tiny print. The next book that I have is a science fiction, and it's Nick Lake's Satellite. He's going to the only place he's never been, home. So this is about a boy, or a guy, I don't know how old he is, who was raised in space, and it's time for him to go back to Earth and see if it's habitable and things like that. And I consider this definitely to be mostly black. Then we have a questionable one, and it is Millionaire the third book in the Pax series by Åsa Larsson, Ingela Korsell, and Henrik Jonsson. This is a middle grade, kind of supernatural Swedish middle grade that is about two brothers who has like the sight, kind of like if you think in the more instrument having the sight, you can see like supernatural things, and they can see supernatural things, and they are chosen by this old library in Mariestad. I think it's called Mariestad. Mariestad eller Mariefred? Mariefred. Mariefred, not Mariestad. There are too many cities in Sweden called Marie something. But anyways, it's set in Mariefred, and these two boys are kind of like chosen by this old library to defeat evil spirits, and all the evil spirits that are, they're not spirits, but everything that is kind of evil has to do with Norse mythology or the Asa faith. So this, I would say, has to do with the Asa faith and not Norse mythology, because the Asa faith is the name of the religion, and because this has the religion as its focus and not the mythology. Like the gods exist, they believe in the gods. So in the book it's a religion, it's not mythology, so it's the Asa faith. And I really loved the first two books. I gave both 3 stars. I really enjoy them. Like, I think when I was younger, I would have really loved this series, but I really like, as a teacher, I teach high schoolers. I like to read books from like different age groups, so that I know like maybe this is a series that I have that some of my students might like, and it's nice if I have read them as well. So I have this. It's not as fully black as the other ones, but it's a contender still. Or it would have been a contender if I didn't already have a book that I would be stupid not to pick. And it's Fire Blood by Ellie Blake. This is just as Yahtzee was. I chose this book to read for the Tropical Readathon, but as it is the end of the month, I will not be able to read this for the readathon, unfortunately. So I would love to read this for September, and having it on my YaTBRzy TBR means that if I don't complete it, I have to take a punishment card, and I don't want to take a punishment card, so chances are I will actually get to it. And I'm so excited to continue this series. This is the sequel to Frostblood, also by Ellie Blake. And I know that a lot of people will kind of hate me for this, but I bought this Frostblood and I bought this sequel. They're not the same style. And then I can show you the third book that I have. So the first book, the second book, and the third. They're all different. I mean, like, these two are kind of like, they have similar things, but they're not that similar. So I have a mismatched trilogy, which is kind of interesting. But this is the first book. I really loved it. It is about a girl called Ruby who is a fireblood in a world of frostbloods. And frostblood is kind of like Elsa in Frozen. They are like, kind of like, they're colder, they're more reserved, calm, and they can do things that has to do with, like, they have ice power and cold powers. But Ruby, who is a fireblood, has a temper. She's warm-blooded, and she can kind of control fire and heat and stuff like that. She is found out very early in the book and is followed by the king's guards and stuff like that, that they want her away because she's a fireblood, meaning that she is a threat to the monarchy. But a group of rebels bring her in and says that she is safe with them, like they can be her safe haven as long as she fights for their cause, which is overthrowing the king. And so she starts to cooperate and work with these rebels to start a revolution. And there is also like a romance in this that I really enjoy, and it's kind of hate to love, but, and when I say hate to love, it's kind of like I hate what you stand for and your people kind of thing. Like, I have things against your kind of people. Ruby is against him because he's a frostblood, and he is against Ruby because she's a fireblood, and both of them have their own traumas and issues relating to the opposite kind of blood type. That sounds so weird, but I don't know how else, like frost blood, fire blood, blood type, I guess. But I really enjoyed the romance in this. I thought it was really cute, and I know that a lot of people kind of talk down to this series because it's like, I've heard people say that you don't have to read this if you've read YA fantasy with romance in it because they're all the same. And like, yes, they have things in common, but this was still really fun to read. So I'm gonna read the sequel. Roll number 4. I'm gonna go with 5 again. And last, one more 5. Okay, then I'm gonna take that here. So we have 15 on 5s. Because where else? I already have chance. So that is another yellow card. And we have pink cover. I'm having a bit of a flashback to not that long ago when I had like a TBR video playing YaTBRzy, and I got these in pairs. So the first 2, the same thing, but a word was different. And the next 2, the same, but a word was different. And then the same, and the word, one word was different. And it was like, what is happening? Because I have so many prompt cards that I haven't actually, since I did my first YaTBRzy video back in December for January, I haven't had to mix these prompts that I've already had. I haven't had to mix them in with the remaining. So like, I haven't done that. So I just keep a pile of all of these ones that I haven't used, that I have used, and then when I'm done, like for the year, I can mix them in, and then for the next year I have all of them. That is just kind of like to make sure that I don't get the same prompt 2 months in a row. But we got pink cover, which just as with black cover, I have a few options. And when I say a few options, I mean a few, because I have like this purple. I actually only found 2 with pink on the cover and not on the spine. Bonds of Brass by Emily Skrutsky, a science fiction that I've heard nothing but great things about, and I'm excited to get to it. And the other one is Girls Save the World. In this one, that is also by Ash Parsons, should have said that. This is kind of like a zombie apocalypse, but girls win. I have no idea like what to expect with this. I think it sounds so fun that it's a zombie apocalypse. I've never read a book with zombie apocalypse, so I think that's gonna be very funny. Or not funny, but like fun reading experience. And I'm really intrigued by the title, Girls Save the World, in this one. So I'm gonna pick this for pink cover because the girls are pink, it has pink down here, and some of the back is pink. Like, yes, I could have done this for blue as well, but it's like 50-50 blue pink, and I'm gonna count this as pink. So I will have a little like supernatural, YA, apocalyptic, feminist book. Roll number 5. I was like, wait, but okay, so we're gonna try and get a big straight. So 5, this should be 5. 5. Yes! Oh, thank God. That is a big straight, that is 20, yay. And that is highest possible, so we get a red card. And this number is 46. Number 46. And you know the drill by now. The number on the title cards correlates to the number on the want to read list on Goodreads. Number 46 is Guapa by Salim Haddad. I don't know that much about this except that it's Middle Eastern and has queer representation. If I remember correctly, the main character identifies as someone on the queer, like he's a Killian, he likes boys, but I don't know specifically what identity, but all I know is that it has queer representation in the main character, which I'm really excited about. I love reading stories from around the world by people from around the world, and so like reading a book about the queer experience in the Middle East is something that I'm very curious about, so I'm excited to read this. Hi, It's a little later. I have looked through the internet, dissecting it, trying to find Guapa by Salim Haddad, but I am not allowed to buy the Kindle because it's not available in Sweden. I am not allowed to buy the audiobook because it's not available for purchase in Sweden. So I can't read it. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a new red card because I got Guapa by a title card, so I'm gonna take a new title card. So I'm just gonna so we're shuffling. I should have done this on thicker paper, I think. And then this card is number 19. And so number 19 is Timekeeper by Tara Sim, and this is kind of like a queer steampunk book. I love steampunk, so I think it's gonna be fun. And I love queer science fiction fantasy books, and it's kind of historical science fiction as well because it's set in an alternate world in the Victorian age. That sounds interesting. Roll number 6. I'm gonna go with the ones. What if I get a 1 for this? That's Yahtzee, of course. Are you serious? Okay. That's amazing. Because of course I'm not switching 50 points to 5. That would be very weird and stupid. So that's a red card, get high as possible. So 2 red cards in a row. And we have number 7. Number 7, which correlates to Before You Say I Do by Claire Lydon. I got a Yahtzee. I am super excited about that. Claire Lydon is one of my favorite female romance authors. She's written the popular London series. I love Made in London. I think it's one of my absolute favorite books. I can't wait to reread that book. And so when I found out about Before You Say I Do, I was so interested. I was really intrigued to read it. But now I get to read it. I'm gonna get it as an audiobook. But this is kind of like a female story. It's a romance and it has to do with a wedding. And this is kind of like the bride is falling for her bridesmaid. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I have no idea how this is going to go, if there will be a cheating element in it. So I'm kind of a little bit unsure going into it because of the cheating element may be a factor in it. I don't know. But a bride falling for a bridesmaid, I just think it sounds intriguing. And I am kind of getting Imagine Me and You vibes, and it's one of my favorite sapphic romance movies of all time. I love that movie. And this is kind of the bride is engaged to a guy. I don't know if she identifies as bisexual. When I say if she identifies as bisexual, I don't know if she knows that she likes women before she meets and falls for her bridesmaid. So I don't know about that. In Imagine Me and You, she didn't know that she liked women before she met Luce. So I don't know about in Before You Say I Do. I don't know if the bride actually already identifies as bisexual or pansexual or anything, or if she identifies as straight, marrying her boyfriend or fiance and then falling for a woman, and if there's gonna be a big sexual awakening thing and personal exploration. I don't know, but I'm excited to read it. Roll number 7. Whoops. This fell off, so I'm rolling it again. And it's a 2. That was so close to being a small straight. I'm gonna try. If this isn't a 5 in this roll, I'm gonna roll again. Are you okay? Okay. I feel like the game is starting to love me, and I'm happy about that. That's the first time I've gotten both of these. The absolute first time I've gotten the small and the big straight in the same row or column or whatever. So that's interesting. And that is a red card. Oh my god. And it's 16. Number 16 is another title, of course. And this time it's The Never Tilting World by Rince Pecco. The Never Tilting World by Rince Pecco is a queer high fantasy YA book. And on Goodreads, it says Frozen meets Mad Max. in this epic fantasy duology. That sounds very interesting. I've never seen Mad Max. I don't know that much about it except that it's kind of like apocalyptic, but it sounds interesting. And I love me a good high fantasy with queer representation. So that's gonna be very fun. I like going into fantasy books kind of open-minded, not open-minded, but without knowing that much, so that I am prepared to be surprised and swept off of my feet, basically. Last roll for September. I'm gonna go for the freeze now. And I'm rolling again. And we get another freeze. So that is 9 for a freeze, which is fine. It's fine. That's a very ugly 9, but okay. And that is a yellow card, and it's Selma Lagerlöf. So I'm going to read a Swedish classic by one of Sweden's most critically acclaimed authors of all time, and one of the most known Swedish female author of all time as well. So this is not how I expected to end with for September, for YaTBRzy prompts with Selma Lagerlöf. I did not expect that, but for this prompt I'm gonna read a book by Selma Lagerlöf, of course, and I'm going to read one of her most popular books, and it's Nils Holgerssons Underbara resa genom Sverige. And this is kind of I've heard that this is the first book that actually mapped out Sweden in one story, that you don't have a map, but it's travels through Sweden. And as a kid in Sweden, you most likely have watched one of the films based on this story. It's a very short kind of fairy tale book, and as it is one of Selma Lagerlöf's most talked about books, I decided that's the one that I'm gonna read for her. So out of the 8 books chosen by YaTBRzy, these are the ones that I own. That means 5 books that I will have to check at the library, 1 book that will be arriving soon, but the other ones I will check if the library has them. Otherwise I will buy them as audiobooks or ebooks, and that's fine as well. But now let's choose the books that I have to read in a cafe. So I have decided what books to read for the In the Cafe challenge. And as I said earlier, when I spun the wheel and got this reading challenge, maybe some of you think but Kevin, why don't you just spin it again? Why is it even on the wheel if it's such a difficult or issue for you, being social anxiety and stuff? It's because the whole point of the wheel is to challenge myself with my reading. I have both in nature and in a cafe as challenges on my wheel, because I love being in those places. It's kind of self-care for me, but the challenge lies in reading 5 books only in that place and filming in that place, reading. Those are the things that I find difficult, but I want to push myself to be better, and that's the whole point of challenging myself with my reading and with my everyday life. So that's why I'm gonna go through with the challenge and not spin it again or pretend I never spun it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So the 5 books that I'm going to read in a cafe for my monthly reading vlog, that's going to be very interesting. I decided I'm going to read Nils Holgerssons Underbara resa genom Sverige by Selma Lagerlöf, because I feel it's, out of the books on my TBR, the most socially acceptable one is the Swedish classic. If I would sit with a cup of coffee and a book, I think a lot of people wouldn't think twice if they saw that, oh, it's a Swedish classic. I feel if I sat and I had, I don't know, another book, they might, I don't know, it's not it matters anyways, but I felt that is a good book to start off the vlog with, that when I feel unsure, uncertain, and awkward, that I have a Swedish classic next to me and in front of me, and like that, I feel like that would feel a lot better to start. But then I'm also going to read YaTBRzy for like multiple reasons. I'm really excited to read this. It's kind of like a good travel size, even though it's kind of heavy. But this is the kind of book that I want people to see. Like me reading this in a coffee shop, people walking by, seeing it, seeing that it says YaTBRzy, having like all of these animals running. They might be intrigued and search for YaTBRzy and its publicity for Darcy Little Badger. And so I am excited to read this, and I feel like I can help like give this publicity in Sweden. Even though I live in a very small place and like not a lot of people will see me read it, but having it will be kind of nice also for the aesthetics. This is going to look really cute on like a coffee shop table with like my coffee mug and stuff. I think that's gonna be kind of nice. So this I'm going to read for the challenge as well. And then I decided to pick 2 graphic novels. So I'm going to read They Book 1, which is going to be a reread, but I wanted to read book 2, so I felt like I have to reread book 1 first. So I will have these 2 books that are graphic novels. These are set in kind of like an alternate world, an alternate Nordic during the Viking Age. So this is kind of like during that time when the Asafave, the Norse mythology, was kind of at its height, I guess. So it's very much inspired by Nordic folklore and mythology and the religion and stuff like that. So excited to finish the series because it's only a duology. It is available in English if you're interested in checking it out. But I think it's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be great. So reading these 2 as well. And the last book I'm going to read in a cafe is, and this might be the worst decision I've ever made, but I want to read Before You Say I Do. It's gonna be so weird. Like I'm gonna read a highly anticipated female-female romance in a coffee shop vlogging. It's gonna be really interesting. It could be the worst idea I've ever had, but I thought it felt kind of fun. I have it as an audiobook, so I will be listening to it while doing other stuff, I guess. I think that's very like nice to do, to just sit in a coffee shop, drink coffee and listen to a book. I think that's gonna be nice, but that's kind of the idea. Oh my gosh. And we'll see at the end of the month how it went. Like, you will see my reading vlog when I read 5 books, only reading them in a cafe. Like maybe, like who knows, maybe I will have to switch cafes for every book. Like I'm gonna read 1 book in 1 cafe and the next book in another cafe. Would it count if I sit outside the cafe? Comment down below if you think it would count if I sit outside of the cafe, or if I would take coffee from a cafe and sitting somewhere else. Would like, do you think that counts? Let me know down below. Like I need perspectives. But then here we have the physical copies of the books that I'm going to read, and then we also have A Closed and Common Orbit, Before You Say I Do, The Never Tilting World, and Timekeeper. So there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and comment down below. I am both excited and terrified going into September with this. Yeah, but I will see all of you next time. Good reading. Bye.